What is design thinking really about? Before we start the projects, let's quickly cut through the noise. Design thinking is not a rigid, linear process. Instead, it's a flexible framework where you learn and improve in repeating loops. In this video, we will quickly review each design thinking step and explain why it matters using an example, without considering AI. That will be covered in a subsequent video. Step 1. Emphasize the idea. Start where people are and validate the problem without writing a single line of code. Before we talk solutions, we need to see the world through someone else's eyes. Take the case of onboarding new employees. On paper, the process might look fine. Orientation meetings, a handbook, a buddy system. But through the eyes of a newcomer, things can feel very different. Confusion about who to ask for help, overwhelmed with too much information, or a sense of isolation when joining remotely. Imagine you would be tasked with developing an app for the onboarding phase while you have been with the company for 10 years already. How do you know what a 22-year-old newcomer really needs? Faulty assumptions are the most expensive bugs. That's why design thinking starts with empathy. It means really understand the people we are designing for, how they think, what challenges they face, how they feel. This often results in creating so-called personas. By listening, observing, and asking deeper questions, we uncover the needs we should address with our solution. The empathy step keeps us from designing a system that the users don't need, and instead design for the human being who will be using it. Step 2. Define. The idea is to turn raw insight into a rock-solid problem statement or requirement. Once we've identified how our target group ticks, we need clarity and focus on what to develop. In our example of onboarding, the issue may not be too many meetings and documents. The real challenge might be that the new hires feel insecure about where they can add value during the first month and not look stupid because they are new. Instead of focusing on improving the onboarding, the reframed requirement for us could be: how can we help new employees feel confident and productive from day one? Totally different story, isn't it? Without a sharp definition of the problem, even the best ideas risk missing the mark. A well-crafted problem statement aligns the team, prevents scope creep, and becomes the benchmark against which every technical decision and feature is measured. Step 3. Ideate. Now we want to widen the field on purpose. Now it's time to think big. We throw ideas on the wall to see what sticks. In our example, maybe a personalized onboarding app plus peer mentoring circles, or a first week wins checklist. Whatever. No idea is dismissed too quickly. The goal is to stretch beyond the obvious. It's the space for brainstorming, mind mapping, sketching, and building on each other's ideas without judgment. But this can be hard for many teams. The challenge is to be really open to unconventional or impossible ideas during this step. And the best solutions rarely appear on the first try. By encouraging quantity and variety, ideation helps teams move beyond obvious answers and discover unexpected possibilities. You will see later how AI will be extremely useful for this step. And then we decide which ideas deserve to be taken further while still keeping a backlog of the other ideas. Step 4. Prototype. It's time to make it real, fast, and rough. Ideas are only promises until we make them tangible. In the onboarding case, that might mean creating a draft digital welcome kit, role-playing the buddy system, or sketching a simple dashboard of our app where new hires can track their progress toward productivity. None of this has to be polished. It just needs to be real enough for the non-tech folks to provide feedback. Prototypes are conversation starters. They shall help you test assumptions quickly and cheaply, spark feedback, and reveal what works and what doesn't before investing significant resources. And step 5, test. Let reality answer back. Now we put the prototype in front of potential users. In our case, we observe what new hires do. Where do they get stuck? What excites them? What feels unnecessary? Their reactions provide us with insights that we could never have predicted on our own. Testing during the first phase does not mean to run fully fledged functional or performance tests. Testing means closing the loop on your ideas and start the next loop by providing you with insights into both your solution and your user. It often reveals blind spots or even reframes the original problem. It's not the end of the process, but another step in the cycle of learning and refining before you really start defining functions, user stories, and your development sprints. Iteration, the rhythm that makes it work. The truth is, we rarely move neatly from empathy to testing in one sweep. We loop back, we refine the problem, ideate again, or build a new prototype. Each cycle trims risk and brings us closer to a solution that genuinely helps people. In this case, a smoother and more empowering onboarding experience. Design thinking is human-centered problem solving. Each stage has a purpose. Empathy guards against assumptions. Definition gives us focus. Ideation breaks routine thinking. Prototypes let us learn cheaply. And testing grounds us in reality. But many teams struggle to implement the design thinking method because it looks very time-consuming. That's where AI comes into play, as you will see in our next videos. Your new partner, the AI. AI appears in many different forms, yet for this course, we will focus on generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Microsoft's Copilot, as well as some specialized tools. We will only use tools we can interact with by chatting with the tool. We do not look at approaches like using machine learning algorithms to analyze hundreds of terabytes of user data. That's beyond the scope of this course. If you are new to generative AI, I recommend that you visit one of our other AI courses. AI can inspire creativity, evaluate complex information, and strengthen our critical thinking. Let me quickly attend to some risks and limitations we need to be aware of. Risk area 1. Large language models, such as ChatGPT or Copilot, are biased in certain areas. For instance, when we use AI to help us generate user profiles, called personas, these may be biased and not fully reflect our actual user base. Therefore, we always need to keep our minds open and critically check how the AI defines personas. Risk area 2. Generative AI systems depend on one crucial element, our input, our prompt. Our prompting skills determine how well the model can respond. If prompts are vague, results remain unfocused. If they are structured and purposeful, the AI becomes a true partner in the creative process. Sometimes vague is perfect because it allows for creative outcomes. Sometimes we need precision. But don't worry, I will assist you in engineering design thinking-focused prompts and let AI become a helpful collaborator. Shall we look at how AI can be integrated into the design thinking workflow? The AI-enhanced workflow, design thinking on steroids. When we look at the 5 stages of design thinking, define, ideate, prototype, and test, AI can add speed, depth, and new possibilities to each of them. The process doesn't change, but the way you work through it becomes sharper and often much faster. As a former software developer myself, I understand how challenging it can be to envision how a potential user might interact with your system, what they really expect, how patient they are, how well they follow the user instructions, and much more. AI can help you massively and save many hours of work by creating so-called personas within seconds, either without much input from you or by utilizing existing information such as user feedback, testimonials, or Jira tickets. In a traditional design thinking process, empathy requires time, long interviews, observations, and careful analysis. AI doesn't replace that human connection, but it helps to tell the signal from the noise. Imagine analyzing thousands of survey responses or social media comments by chatting with an AI, uncovering patterns about user expectations within minutes that would otherwise take weeks to find. And with transcription and summarizing tools, interviews and field notes provide a shortcut to drawing insights. Define. Once you've gathered all that raw inputs, AI helps bring order to the chaos. Natural language processing can cluster research findings into themes, spotlight recurring pain points, and suggest draft problem statements. AI-powered sentiment analysis can even detect emotional tones, whether users are frustrated, excited, or hesitant, helping you see not just what people say, but how they feel. Simply asking an AI to suggest the 5 most crucial pain points or most innovative ideas provides you with a shortcut to define the problem you should really focus on to provide value to your user. Ideate. Now AI becomes your creative partner. Generative models can spin out hundreds of variations: slogans, product features, campaign ideas, problem statements, giving you a wide canvas to work with. Prompting the AI in a smart way, you can be innovative without being overwhelmed by 100 random ideas. You can prompt AI to take on different roles: an engineer, a marketing expert, or even a skeptical customer, and let it brainstorm from that perspective. And if you have a weird idea, AI can expand it, stretch it, and offer alternatives you might never have considered, or validate it as solid, not odd. AI doesn't replace your human imagination, but it pushes you past your blind spots and first idea thinking. Prototype. This is where abstract ideas start to take shape. AI-assisted design tools can generate wireframes, mockups, or even sample user flows in minutes. Text-to-image models bring early concepts to life visually, so teams and stakeholders can react to something concrete instead of just words. Specialized AI tools even let you create clickable prototypes without any design skills, without writing a single line of code. You could call it vibe prototyping. The key shift is speed. Instead of spending days creating mockups yourself, you can spend hours exploring and refining. That takes us to test. Testing is no longer limited to observing a few people in a room. AI can simulate user interactions, predict usability issues, or analyze feedback survey forms. Advanced systems analyze recordings with eye tracking and click pattern detection. AI can also help generate testing scenarios like how a distracted user or a first-time customer might interact with your system, to stretch how you think about usability. But do you know what the greatest contribution of AI in design thinking is? It's iteration. Because AI reduces the time needed to cycle through the process. You and your team can move from an idea to a validated concept in hours instead of weeks. That means more room for experimentation, more space to try, fail, and try again, without the weight of traditional timelines. In short, AI doesn't change the essence of design thinking, it amplifies it. It gives us new tools to define more clearly, ideate more boldly, prototype more quickly, and test more effectively. The mindset stays the same. What changes is the pace and the possibilities. The new foundation, Design Thinking with AI. Welcome to the Design Thinking with AI course. Let's be honest, do you get excited when you hear design thinking? For many of us in tech, it's vague meetings, endless workshops, and a mountain of sticky notes. It feels inefficient. Well, that's the old way of design thinking. From now on, you will take the design thinking fast track, infused with the logic and speed you are accustomed to achieve brilliant solutions 10 times faster. Imagine going from a vague problem to a validated high-fidelity prototype, not in weeks, but in a single afternoon. Design thinking with AI isn't about guesswork anymore. This is about building what people actually want and doing it with speed and precision. It all starts with understanding your user on a deeper level. My AI courses have already helped over 75,000 people leverage AI strategically. In this hands-on, project-based course, we are tearing down the old process. And if you're new to the term design thinking, that's perfect. You don't need to know a thing about it. You will learn the entire framework on the go, through practical application with AI as your co-creator. I will guide you through several projects following the design thinking steps with AI, while you actively follow along and adapt the scenario to your own liking. For each project, you will learn the prompts, the workflow, and the mindset to stop building in the dark and instead create products you know people need. I'll show you how to walk along the design thinking path, and you will apply those steps to your industry or your own ideas. By the end of this course, you will have 3 key takeaways. First, a prototype for an innovation creation tool that showcases your new skills. Second, a library of powerful prompts for every stage of product development with design thinking. And third, a repeatable framework to innovate on any idea. This course is tool agnostic, so you can stick to the AI policies of your company and apply your learnings immediately. My name is Axel Rittershaus, and this is Design Thinking Rebooted with AI. For developers, by developers. Because in the 1990s, I used to be a software developer myself who turned into an IT entrepreneur and eventually a manager in IT consultancies like Accenture. Since 2008, I have been working as an instructor and executive coach. But you know, once a developer, always a developer. If you are ready to trade the sticky notes for a powerful new workflow, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and start creating something amazing. Design Thinking with AI, the AI Personal Investment Assistant project. It's time to start our first hands-on project. Over the next few lessons, we are going to build a concept for an AI Personal Investment Assistant, a fintech product for customers, also known as a B2C product idea. This isn't just a theoretical exercise. We will be applying the entire AI-powered design thinking process you've learned about to a real-world challenge. You will see how each phase, from understanding the user to testing a prototype, is accelerated and enhanced by using AI as our creative partner. How can you benefit the most from this and other projects in this course? I encourage you to follow along, run the prompts yourself and see what you discover. All the prompts used in our projects are available for you to download. They are the framework you can rely on and build on. So, first copy the prompt and see what your AI provides you as answers. And whenever the AI asks you to make a decision or add your own ideas, please feel free to do so. In our prompts, we also show you where you might want to upload data. For the example projects, you will most likely not have any data. But since the prompts can easily be adapted to your real-world tasks, you will immediately have a prompt asking you for relevant data that you can upload. Open another browser window, download the prompts, and run them in your preferred and approved AI tool while you watch the lessons. Empathize, understanding the modern investor. What's the most expensive mistake in any project? Building something nobody needs. The first phase of design thinking, empathize, is our insurance policy against that risk. It's about systematically understanding the real-world problems of our users before we write a single line of code. In our first project, we have the broad idea of building an investment assistant. Investment is a very personal and, for many people, even emotional topic. How do we uncover hidden needs, emotional barriers, and the subtle mistakes that shape financial decision-making? This is where the empathize phase begins. Traditionally, without AI, this means slow manual user interviews for weeks. But today, with the support of AI as a sparring partner, the process can take on an entirely new dimension in minutes. In a second, I will show you an empathize prompt that assists you in identifying common challenges and developing some user personas. How is the prompt structured? In step 1, you can clarify if you want to create your product for a specific target group. In step 2, you can provide the AI with some common challenges, unmet needs, or pain points it should consider for the investment assistant. But you don't have to. The AI assistant will then help you identify the challenges the potential users might be facing. Remember, this empathize phase is about exploring what the user really needs, the challenges she faces. You will also have the option to upload some real customer feedback or any data logs you have on this topic. Probably you don't have any. Finally, the AI will help you create 3 to 5 personas based on all previous data. Now, let's look at how it works. We will demonstrate this project using Microsoft Copilot, the free version. However, feel free to use whichever Gen AI you prefer. We also selected the deep thinking model. At first, we can clarify if we want to develop our AI assistant for a specific target group. That is where your input matters. We continue with a general audience, but feel free to give the chatbot as much information about a target group as you would like. We also don't really have any challenges or unmet needs that we would like to address. So we just let Copilot research some for us. Here we have the outcome. If you would like, you can upload some real customer feedback here to incorporate their concerns. We then move into developing the personas. If you want to build an app for yourself, you can define one persona based on your demographics, but since we kept the audience general, we will just let Copilot develop the personas. And here they are. You can always go back and ask Copilot to change the personas if you would like. In just a few minutes, we've gone from a blank slate to a concrete set of assets, a validated list of user pain points, and a cast of data-driven personas we can design for. And we've used AI to build a solid foundation of understanding. But this rich data presents a new challenge. With so many problems to solve, which one should we tackle first? How do we focus our efforts for maximum impact? That is precisely the goal of the define phase. In the next video, we'll take these raw insights and use AI to forge them into a sharp, actionable problem statement that will guide the rest of our project. See you there. Before you go there, and if you haven't done yet, please run the prompts in your own AI and play with it. Define. In the last lesson, we used AI to gather a ton of raw data, user challenges, pain points, and personas. Now we face a new problem, turning that noise into a clear signal. The define phase is where we do just that. It's about engineering a rock-solid problem statement that will act as the North Star for our entire project. In this lesson, I'll show you how to use AI not just to formulate these statements, but to prioritize them based on real business and customer impact. Your mission is to identify the single most crucial problem to solve. Let's get focused. Please download the prompt used in this video and follow along. In the next step, the assistant will help you formulate 3 to 5 clear problem statements. It is essential to continue in the same chat window as before, since we will directly reference previous outcomes. As you can see, our last conversation just ended with the personas. We now paste in our define prompt. We can see a short recap of the target group and our personas, and Copilot also developed some "how might we" statements for us. Even when you just run step 4, you will have a very good outcome. The goal is to find out which problem statement is most relevant for you. You can obviously decide that without the help of AI, but you can also use it for your advantage. We now dive a bit deeper and provide you with follow-up prompts that are particularly relevant when you apply design thinking to your real-world tasks. The first follow-up prompt allows you to upload some feedback data and ask the AI to prioritize the problem statements based on that. You would take that step if you would have real feedback available. Another follow-up prompt leverages AI to prioritize the problem statements for you based on the impact on customer satisfaction and the impacts on business metrics. Depending on what AI you are using, the prompt can even generate a 2x2 matrix visualizing the priorities. In real life, you decide the criteria the AI should use to prioritize the statements. In this project, you can play around with other priorities and see how the results change. We are now pasting in a follow-up prompt which will help prioritize the statements. And it did. We even have a 2x2 matrix. At the end of the define phase, we arrived at the problem statement that is specific, actionable, and connected to real user needs. It is less about elegant wording and more about clarity. What exactly is the challenge we want to solve and for whom? This clarity will act, as I said, as a North Star, ensuring that our ideas do not drift but remain anchored in the reality of the people we design for. Ideate – brainstorming features with an AI. After defining the problem, we naturally ask ourselves, how do we generate possible solutions? The biggest trap at this stage is to jump on the first most obvious solution. The ideate phase is our defense against this narrow thinking. It's about deliberately exploring the entire solution space. At this point, quantity matters before quality. Why? Because diverse ideas increase the likelihood that one of them will open an unexpected path forward. The challenge, however, is to avoid falling back into safe, predictable thinking. How do we ensure that we push beyond the obvious? With AI as our creative partner, we can generate a massive quantity and diversity of ideas, far beyond what a human team could do alone. Your mission now is to go wide. Let's brainstorm. When chatting to our AI, we now select one problem statement to continue with in our next step and brainstorm potential features for the AI financial assistant. You can let the AI brainstorm for you, but also add your ideas. We recommend a mixture of both. Don't think about how can we implement it. Just throw out your wildest ideas. As always, you can find the prompt as a download. First, we need to select one problem statement we want to continue our design thinking journey with. Once we have selected it, we can see a quick recap of the relevant personas and unmet needs. We can then start brainstorming features for our assistant. If you already have some features in mind, now is the time to write them down. And then you can lean back for a second while AI brainstorms some more features for us. Look at that. We have a rich collection of potential features and innovative ideas, all tied directly to our users' needs. But now, at the end of Ideate, we do not yet have a finished solution. The value lies in the variety, not in the polish. To find out if any of them are actually viable, we need to make them tangible and testable fast. In the next lesson, we will do just that by building our first low-fidelity prototype. It's time to make these ideas real. Prototype Lo-Fi, from text to user flow. Ideas are cheap. Implementation is expensive. The prototype phase is how we bridge that gap. The goal here is to create a fast, low-cost model of our idea to see if it holds up in the real world. We are not building a product yet. We are building a conversation starter without investing too much time or resources. With AI, we can generate a user journey and a basic wireframe in minutes, allowing us to test our riskiest assumptions before writing a line of code. The goal is not perfection, but speed. Because only when an idea is visible and concrete, we can test it, challenge it, and refine it. Let's build our first proof of concept. In our AI chatbot, you should now choose 3 to 5 features that you want to see represented in the first prototype. Your AI assistant will help you choose them. The AI will design a short user journey that illustrates how someone might interact with a prototype. In the following step, the AI will generate a short sketch of the first prototype, and you can refine it to your liking. How good the prototype sketch looks depends on the AI you use. It may not come out exactly as you want due to the limitations of some AIs. But even then, you will hopefully have created a starting point on which you can build, or you turn to another AI. As always, we now paste our prompt into our AI tool and let the AI guide the way. We can now select 3 to 5 features from the shortlist. Copilot then develops a possible user journey for us and also develops wireframes. This step is finicky depending on the AI you use. Sometimes you might have to prompt the AI to put the wireframes into pictures, but in our case it worked out by itself. And now, at the end of the lo-fi prototype phase, we have something that can be shown, discussed, and improved. How long did it take? A few minutes. It might not be pretty, but it makes our idea concrete and allows us to get feedback. This is how design thinking moves from imagination to reality, step by step, and always with the user in mind. Did you enter our prompts in your AI? Please continue following along and let yourself be surprised by what your chatbot creates. Prototype Hi-Fi, generating a realistic user interface. Our low-fidelity prototype helped us validate the basic structure of our idea. The next step is to increase the level of detail. This is where high-fidelity prototyping with design thinking begins. Instead of rough outlines, we want to generate a version that looks and feels much closer to a real product. Demonstrate design, some interactions, and maybe even parts of the functionality. The purpose is to create something that users can truly experience, something they can click through, navigate, and react to as if it were already finished. Traditionally, this would take days or weeks. Today, we are going to create a prompt that tools like Figma can use to build a clickable prototype for us. Figma has been a tool for designers for many years. With its AI integration into UI generation capabilities, it may be one of the staple tools for all design thinkers. What I show you has been done with their free version. The following prompt will guide you through the next step of creating a clickable prototype. You will first be asked if you have any design choices that you would like to see implemented. If you don't want to make a decision, your AI will refer back to the personas and think about their wants and needs. You will then get a ready-to-use prompt that you can copy into tools like Figma or LovableDev or any other of these tools. We will use Figma to generate the first clickable prototype for you. This generation usually takes a little while. If you follow along and try it as well, you can either take a short break or even continue with the course, because the finished clickable prototype that you are going to see is not needed for the next lesson. But anyhow, let's create something beautiful now. We paste our prompt and get started. We can decide if we have any specific design preferences and tell these to Copilot. We decided to just give some color choices and base the rest of the design on the preferences of the personas. Copilot then provides us with a prompt we can directly copy into Figma. Here you can see the Figma main page. If you have never used Figma before, it might look overwhelming, but don't worry. You will just need to locate the Make feature in the upper right corner. We copy and paste the prompt Copilot developed for us, and then we wait. Since our time is limited, we jump to the finished product. We can click on different things and also see some of our features. We can see the short explanations when we hover over jargon. We can also try the simulator. It is quite impressive how even the visualized graph changes depending on what simulation we choose. We can also click on the chat feature and ask a question. I don't know how you feel about this, but even as a developer, I am impressed by the speed at which one can generate prototypes today. Sure, they are not perfect, but we don't need perfection now. We need speed to get feedback. And it is still flexible enough to adapt and change. In other words, it bridges the gap between idea and implementation. This makes it a decisive step. The moment when vision becomes testable reality. How will real users react to it? Will they find it intuitive? Will they trust it? In the next lesson, we'll enter the test phase. Test. Simulating user feedback. Once a prototype exists, the key question is, how will real users respond to it? The next step in design thinking is user testing, but that takes time to organize. What if we could run a pre-flight check first? In this lesson, we will use AI to simulate user feedback. By role-playing user perspectives, anticipating typical reactions, or applying known behavioral patterns, we can generate early insights. It's not a substitute for real testing, but it helps us identify blind spots and refine the prototype before involving a broader audience. And we can use AI to make our lives a little easier. In the next step, you can decide whether you want the perspective of a specific persona we created a long time ago or a general audience. And suddenly, you will receive in-depth feedback on your prototype. You can also get feedback from another persona and contrast the different perspectives if you wish. For this, you have two options. I will first show you how you can proceed with the same chat window we used so far. Since we can't really show Copilot our prototype, the feedback we now receive will be based on our wireframes and the written down prototype. We paste in our prompt and choose one persona we want to receive feedback from. And within seconds, we get it. We get some critical suggestions and an overall judgment of our prototype. We also took some screenshots of our Figma prototype. So now, in a new chat window, we will show these screenshots to Copilot and ask for feedback. We again want feedback from a specific persona, but since we are working in a new chat window, you will now have to copy the description of the persona into the new window, as you can see on screen right now. We cannot get any feedback on how intuitive the navigation within our prototype is, but for that we could get some human feedback. We again get some critical suggestions and a final judgment from the perspective of our persona. At the end of this step, we have a clearer picture of how users might interact with our solution, where confusion could arise, and which aspects are likely to create value. Simulated feedback provides direction and prepares us for real-world validation. It ensures that when we do meet actual users, we enter the conversation with sharper questions and more relevant assumptions. You could now enter the first reiteration phase, in which you would adjust your lo-fi and then also your hi-fi prototype. Or you can go ahead with the prototypes and let some human users test them. Test. Analyzing user feedback. It's time for the moment of truth, putting our prototype in front of real users. But gathering feedback is only half the battle. Analyzing it is where the real insights are found. In this lesson, we will use AI for two critical tasks. First, to design an effective, unbiased user survey, and second, to analyze the collected responses, identify patterns, and summarize actionable recommendations. Let's turn raw feedback into our roadmap for the next iteration. In a first step, AI can help us generate an appropriate survey that we can send out to people who tested our first prototype. But it doesn't stop there. Once we have all responses from the survey, our AI assistant can help us analyze the data and summarize actionable items. Here you can see how fast Copilot can generate an appropriate survey. We use the same window as before, so all the information we developed so far will be incorporated. Now we just need to show the prototype to some people and let them evaluate it with a survey. Since we don't have any real testers right now, we are using AI to simulate some feedback. As you can see, we even chose a different chatbot for it, so the answers are not influenced by anything we developed with Copilot. We get a table of feedback that we can copy into Copilot to analyze the feedback. And here we can see our results. Completely summarized into key findings and even actionable recommendations. Excellent work! We've successfully closed the loop. We started with a vague idea and, through the design thinking process, accelerated by AI, we've produced a validated prototype backed by real user data. We have a clear interpretation of what the test results mean for the prototype, which patterns emerge across different users, where do frustrations cluster, and where do strengths become visible. The value lies in turning individual voices into actionable findings. This way, the survey does not just measure reactions. It becomes a compass for the next iteration. We've seen how each design thinking phase builds on the last, from empathy to testing. In the final video of this module, we'll do a quick recap of the entire project and solidify our key learnings. I'll see you there. Recap of Design Thinking with AI, the AI Personal Investment Assistant. You did it! You went from a blank page to a validated prototype for an AI Personal Investment Assistant, and you did it at a speed that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Let's quickly recap the journey. You applied the full design thinking method and leveraged AI as your force multiplier at every stage. You started with empathy, using AI to understand the user's world in minutes, not weeks. You defined the core problem, using AI to turn noisy data into a clear signal. You ideated dozens of solutions to explore the full creative space. You defined what to focus on and built prototypes, moving from a simple sketch to a clickable model with AI's help. And finally, you tested the assumptions using AI to analyze feedback instantly. Think about that. You just ran the full design cycle from user research to a validated prototype in a fraction of the time it would normally take. But what happens now that you've completed one full loop? The real power of this process is in the iteration. The feedback from your testing is gold. It becomes the starting point for your next cycle. You loop back, refine your problem definition, generate better ideas, and build a stronger prototype. Each iteration de-risks your project and gets you closer to a truly brilliant solution. The most important takeaway is this. This isn't a rigid, linear process. It's a flexible toolkit. Your challenge now is to take this framework and apply it to your own projects. Congratulations on completing this project. I suggest you copy all prompts into one document as your template. Then create a duplicate of it and apply the full process to an idea of your own. And then let's meet for the next project where we focus on a real challenge from real businesses. Design Thinking with AI, the Sales Enablement Copilot project. Welcome to our next hands-on project. This time we are focusing on a real business challenge, designing an internal sales enablement copilot. I chose sales because we all kind of understand what salespeople need to do, but for us as designers and developers, it's still a very different world. We'll apply the full AI-powered design thinking framework to solve a complex business problem, focusing on workflow integration and real-world business logic. However, we will approach some of these steps from a different angle, broadening your capabilities to apply design thinking with AI to more situations and challenges. Once again, I encourage you to run the prompts alongside me. They are all available for you to download. Let's get started. Empathize, a day in the life of a sales rep. When we begin a new design thinking cycle, the first step is always the same. Empathize. Do you know what a typical day in the life of a sales representative looks like? What do they spend their time on, and where do they lose time? If we are tasked with building a sales enablement tool, we need to understand them. In our empathize step, we want to understand how they experience their work, which tasks energize them and which ones drain them. These are the insights we seek to capture in a journey map. In our first prompt, you will see two options. Either you have job descriptions of sales reps you can upload, or you ask the AI to go out to the internet and find relevant descriptions. This serves as an example of how your starting point can be based on real data or a research result your AI generated. As always, we start by pasting our prompt into the chat window. We chose Gemini for this project. Please note, we used a free Gemini account for the following videos. We also turned on the Canvas function so that some results will be generated as documents we can adapt to our liking. We already researched some job postings, so we upload these. To interview real people, we also want to generate a questionnaire. You could use this in your own company to find out what exactly sales reps need. Thanks to the Canvas functionality, you can see its benefits. You can simply add more questions where needed. To conclude the empathize phase, we want to generate 5 universal sales rep personas with whom we can continue our design thinking process. We also get a timetable of a typical workday for a sales rep. By the end of this empathize phase, we have a clearer view of a sales rep's daily reality, not as an abstract job title, but as a sequence of tasks, decisions, and pain points. We didn't just guess. We used AI to build this from real-world data. But a map of problems is just the beginning. Our next challenge is to decide which of these bottlenecks is the right one to solve for maximum impact. In the next video, we'll move into the define phase to turn these observations into a clear, prioritized mission. Define. What does the user care about? Now that we've empathized with the daily life of a sales representative, the next question is, how do we make sense of all these insights? The define phase is about moving from a scattered list of problems to engineering a single high-impact target. Here, we will use AI to help us cluster these pain points into clear themes and then prioritize them based on their potential impact on sales efficiency. Our job is to find the signal in the noise. Let's define our target. So what exactly do we do in define? Step 1, we reframe the observations from the empathize phase into problem statements. Instead of saying sales reps spend too much time on reporting, we ask, how might we reduce the time spent on reporting so that sales reps can focus more on customer interactions? Step 2, we cluster the problem statements into themes. Step 3, we prioritize. Not every pain point is equally important. Here we decide which challenges are worth tackling first based on impact and feasibility. And what do we get as a result? A set of well-defined problem statements that are specific, actionable, and user-centered. A clear sense of priorities so we know where to focus our creative energy. A shared understanding across the team, ensuring that everyone is aligned before we start generating ideas. We paste our prompt into the same chat we used before. As you can see, our last step was creating the personas. Now the AI works and generates some "how might we" statements for us. It even clusters them into thematic groups. And it prioritizes what seems to be most relevant based on our generated personas and the job postings we uploaded. By the end of define, we should be able to point to one or two key challenges and say, this is what we are solving, and this is why it matters. It's about clarity and focus, not perfection. These problem statements will serve as our compass in the next phase, Ideate, where we design the core logic of our AI copilot. Have you entered the prompt in your AI yet? If not, please do so now. Ideate, designing the copilot's core logic. We've understood the daily life of sales reps. We defined the most important challenges and know what to focus on. Now comes the creative part, Ideate. The guiding question is, how could our tool actually support a sales rep in their workday? To explore this, we'll start by looking at their core tasks and then reframe them into actionable if-then scenarios. This is a critical step for us as technical people. We're defining the system's behavior before we build the system. Let's architect the logic. We first paste our prompt and wait for the AI to guide us. We have to prioritize one problem statement to continue our journey. We can use one that was prioritized by the AI, define our own, or choose one we developed earlier. So we choose one statement that was developed earlier but didn't appear in our top prioritizations. Our chatbot now continues by listing the 20 most typical tasks of a B2B sales rep and translates these into the if-then scenarios. Just imagine how much time you are saving by just automating this task without requiring any knowledge about how sales reps work. You also get to see what the high-value activities are. The AI even delivers a hunter versus farmer trait analysis. Wow! At the end of the Ideate phase, we now have a library of actionable scenarios, ideas that show us what an AI sales tool could really do in practice. They don't have to be perfect yet. They simply need to be diverse and grounded in the real challenges of sales reps. But a list of rules is just a design document. To see if this logic actually works, we need to build a working model. In the next lesson, we'll enter the prototype phase and build the brain of our tool. Prototype: building the brain. We've generated ideas and prioritized our best if-then scenarios. Now let's build the brain of our tool and turn ideas into something real, a working prototype. The question is simple. What are the few core functions a sales copilot must deliver to remove the biggest bottlenecks and be useful for the salespeople? Let's translate our best if-then scenarios into the building blocks of a prompt. We'll provide it with a few high-quality examples of a user's query and the ideal structured output we expect. For instance, if the user asks for a meeting prep, then you must provide these 3 sections: insights, actionables, and suggestions. By giving the AI this clear structure, we're not just hoping it understands, we are engineering its response format. We continue right where we left off after our Ideate phase. We now want to build the first prototype, and the easiest way to do so is to ask the chatbot to formulate a prompt, acting as a first prototype for our assistant. Yes, we ask the AI to generate a prompt we will use with the AI. The prompt we get might be very complex, but we have a starting point for continuing our development from here. And just like that, we have a working brain. It's not a full application yet, but we have a functional logic engine that can take a sales rep's query and return a structured, intelligent response. But a powerful engine is useless without a steering wheel. A sales rep most likely would prefer an intuitive interface that integrates directly into their workflow. In our next lesson, we'll design the UI for our copilot. Prototype: designing an intuitive interface. Our copilot has a working brain, but no face. We've defined the challenges, explored creative scenarios, and even defined the core logic of our AI copilot. But now in the second prototype phase, it's time to make those functions visible and tangible for the first time. The goal is to design something clean and professional that the sales reps will enjoy using. Instead of spending days in a design tool, we'll use AI to generate a high-quality UI mockup based on a detailed prompt. Here, I'll walk you through how we construct a detailed prompt for a UI generation tool. We'll specify everything: the overall style, the dashboard layout, the site navigation, and the core screens we need, like the meeting prep screen and the CRM notes screen. We'll translate the functions we built in our logic prototype into visual components. Then we'll feed this prompt into an AI tool and watch as it generates a professional, high-fidelity design that we can immediately use for feedback from the sales reps. As we have already seen in the first project, creating a realistic UI mockup is almost as easy as a one-button click. We now want a clickable first prototype to show to our team. So we let our chatbot formulate a prompt we can copy and paste into the tool Lovable. Now that we have our prompt, We can just copy it and switch over to Lovable. Here we paste in our prompt. We still have to remove the AI's explanation about the prompt, but that's an easy fix. And then we just have to wait for Lovable to create something truly incredible. Since this takes a moment, we skip it and, drum roll please, now have a first clickable prototype of our B2B sales rep assistant. As you can see on screen, we can click on different parts of the prototype. Sometimes the buttons work and we see a new screen. Sometimes they don't just yet work, but that is not a problem. We at least have something real and a better idea of how such a tool could look like. Excellent! Now we have a complete prototype and can give sales reps something they can actually see and interact with. When I was a developer, I always had to remind myself that users see a UI differently to me and might interact with it differently. With this crucial step in design thinking, we bridge the gap between ideas and real-world experiences. Sure, when we hand it over to the sales reps, we inform them that it's a prototype and that it's not about perfection. It's about learning quickly and gathering feedback from them. Please follow along, try the prompt for yourself, and see it in real life. Test: role-playing a high-stakes scenario. We've built a prototype, but a prototype only becomes useful when it's tested. The test phase is where we put the Copilot into the hands of a demanding user, in this case a sales manager, a B2B sales manager, and ask, does it really deliver? This isn't about being polite. Only by stress testing can we see where the prototype creates true value and where it still falls short. In this step, we simulate realistic queries, like asking for case studies, retrieving recent touchpoints, or drafting follow-up emails, and evaluate the Copilot's response. The result? We quickly see where the tool performs well, such as clear summaries, and where it falls short, like personalization or depth of content. The benefit is a clear picture of strengths and weaknesses along with concrete improvements to increase real business value. We now let the AI test our prototype, but only the logic of our prototype, not the user interface. Currently, testing the UI with our chatbot is not really an option, but this might be possible very soon. However, we already showed you a workaround by uploading screenshots of our prototype. But for now, we want to focus on the logic and let the AI simulate different scenarios. And we can see different situations in which our assistant would be helpful. Gemini even prepared a conclusion for us. With these comments, we can refine our prototype and develop it further. Now we know more than whether the prototype works. We know exactly how it performs, where it already creates impact, and where it still needs refinement. This clarity ensures that when we move forward, we are not guessing. We're building toward a tool that truly supports sales reps in their daily reality. Recap of Design Thinking with AI, the Sales Enablement Copilot. We've reached the end of our project for an internal application. Let's take a moment to appreciate what you've just accomplished. You didn't just learn about the process. You walked through the creation of a sophisticated internal tool. You learned how to instantly generate detailed user personas, either from specific job descriptions or by letting AI do the research, and used that deep understanding of the workflow to build a pressure-tested prototype. You've now seen how versatile and fast our AI-powered design thinking framework is. The core principles of empathizing, defining, and iterating hold true every time. And if you took the time to run the prompts, to tweak the logic, and to experiment with the UI generation, you have gained something incredibly valuable. This is no longer just theory. You now have hands-on practical experience in using AI and the framework to solve a tangible business problem. That is a skill you can take directly to your next project, your next sprint planning meeting, or your next job interview. Please use the prompts from this project, experiment with them, and adapt them to solve a real problem or explore a new idea within your own organization. That is how this process becomes a true superpower. Congratulations, and now go build something amazing or fun or inspiring, but build something. Design Thinking with AI, the MVP Concept Development Accelerator project. Welcome to our final project. This isn't just another exercise. This is where you build the engine. Throughout this course, we've used AI to supercharge each step of the design thinking process. Now, you're going to build a meta tool you can reuse in the future. An AI-powered MVP Concept Development Accelerator that can kickstart the emphasize and define stages for any future project you can imagine. Yes, we not only learn through a project, but we also build something. This is the culmination of everything you have learned. You'll be using the design thinking process to build a tool that accelerates the design thinking process itself. By the end, you won't just have a new skill. You'll have a powerful, personalized asset you can use immediately in your work. Now, let's build your accelerator. Empathize and define, the innovator's dilemma. Companies often struggle to innovate because they are tied to existing products, processes, and customer demands. They move cautiously, and by the time a new idea is validated, a disruptive competitor may already be in the market. This is the essence of the innovator's dilemma. The very structures that ensure stability can block real change. In this lesson, we begin building our accelerator by applying the empathize and define phases to the tool itself. We will use a simple, powerful prompt to define the core problem our tool needs to solve. How to make innovation faster, cheaper, and less risky for anyone with an idea. For this project, we will use ChatGPT+. As before, feel free to use whichever Gen AI tool you prefer. If you do not use ChatGPT+, your output could vary. As you can see, we combined the emphasize and define phases. The AI runs through it together with us and guides us step by step. The first step is to decide what target audience to focus on. We would like to continue with an universal audience, but you can specify any certain stakeholders you have in mind. ChatGPT then classifies some archetypes we can work with in the following steps. After that, you can further refine the audience if you would like to, but we are happy with what the AI has generated, so we move on to the next step, the empathy maps. Now that we have our personas and the corresponding empathy maps, we ask ChatGPT to continue with the define stage and to create clear problem statements based on our personas. At this stage, you can refine any steps again and add any personal problems you might see fit. Lastly, the goal is to choose the most pressing problem statement you want to achieve with the accelerator. We start with a really simple but powerful prompt that will guide us through the empathize and define phases of design thinking to develop an MVP Concept Development Accelerator. You can just copy and paste the prompt into an AI of your choice and start developing your very own specific accelerator. As you can see, the AI guided us through the different phases And we can always provide our own input or let the AI generate some examples for us. Now we are ready to move on to the next phase, the Ideate phase. Ideate. Designing the accelerator's features. Now that we have defined the problem, we can design the feature set for our MVP accelerator. In our Ideate phase, quantity matters first, quality later. The goal is to generate as many possible solutions as we can without immediately judging or narrowing them down. In traditional workshops, this means sticky notes at a wall. Here, AI allows us to scale the process and surface unexpected solutions in seconds. The prompt on screen guides us into this creative divergence. It helps us to brainstorm multiple directions, push beyond the obvious, and explore ideas we might not come up with on our own. Depending on whether you already have specific ideas or feature requests you want the accelerator to incorporate, or if you are open to any kind of idea the AI throws at you, the prompt will differ a bit. Please use the prompt, which you can download, and modify it to your liking. What emerges from it is a landscape of possibilities. Some bold, some unconventional, some surprisingly practical. The value lies not in selecting the perfect idea immediately, but in recognizing patterns and connections between options. From there, we can start to combine, adapt, and refine. The AI doesn't replace imagination. It provokes it, helping us break free from familiar paths and consider new ones. We now build on the first two stages by letting the AI expand on the ideas even further. Then we can prioritize the ideas based on the three categories: must-have, nice-to-have, and future add-on, so that we know what to work on first. Fantastic! We now have a prioritized list of innovative features for our accelerator. We've moved from a high-level concept to a concrete blueprint of what our tool will be able to do. But a list of features isn't a tool. In our next lesson, we are going to take these individual ideas and forge them into a single, powerful, multi-step prompt that will become the core engine of our accelerator. Evaluation. Building a multi-step AI prompt chain. This is where the magic happens. When my team and I created this course, this lecture was a crucial, mind-bending exercise for us. You answered all the questions in the empathize, define, and ideate phase, but still have no tangible output. We will change that now. In this video, you will see how all of your work can be combined into one long multi-step prompt, which you can then use as your first MVP concept development accelerator. Let's engineer the engine of your tool. We continue right where we left off after our Ideate phase. We now want to build the first prototype, and the easiest way to do so is to ask the chatbot to formulate a prompt acting as a first prototype for our assistant. Yes, we ask the AI to generate a prompt we will use with the AI. The prompt we get might be very complex, but we have a starting point for continuing our development from here. As you can see, we stopped right after our brainstorming session. To continue, please select a few features you would like to see in the accelerator. Technically, you could choose all of them, but we recommend a maximum of 5 features so that the development process can be super quick. Once we have chosen them, simply tell the AI to integrate all the developed insights and generate a multi-step prompt that will act as an MVP concept development accelerator. We also quickly wanted to show you how our accelerator looks like in action. Since it is a very customizable prompt, your version might look completely different. We can just copy the generated multi-step prompt and let our chatbot guide us. For us, that means just explaining our idea in one sentence. And after writing down our one sentence, we get 5 personas, a finished problem statement, a competitive analysis, and a short insight board which summarizes everything. We could then continue further developing our idea. And boom! The AI creates a multi-step prompt for you. In one step, we've integrated all our insights into a sophisticated multi-step prompt that is the first version of our accelerator. You have built the engine. You can copy this prompt into a new chat window and see ideas come to life. In the next video, we will explore how you can create a visually appealing prototype for your idea accelerator. I also provided you with a downloadable document with a master prompt for the accelerator we have developed while filming these videos. Prototype. From wireframe to a simple web interface in 10 seconds. Up until now, our prototyping has always followed an AI-first approach. We have taken prompts, generated screens, and quickly iterated through design choices with almost no manual effort. Sometimes it is much faster and also more intuitive to sketch out an idea by hand. A few quick lines on a piece of paper or a simple drawing on a tablet can capture the essence of a concept better than a lengthy description ever could. That raises the question, how can we still take advantage of AI when the starting point is not text, but a sketch? As you will see in this video, we can feed the wireframe sketch into the AI and ask it to transform that rough outline into a prototype. From there, it becomes easy to refine design choices through natural language. Want a different color scheme, a new layout, or alternative typography? A simple follow-up prompt is enough to see those changes instantly. In this way, the process combines the speed and flexibility of hand-drawn ideation with the efficiency of AI-driven prototyping. For that, we can simply upload our sketched prototype. One remark. Please make sure you save your sketched prototype as an image or take a screenshot, since in our testing the prompt only worked when the wireframe was provided as an image rather than a different document type. You will also need to turn on Create Image within the chat window. This process can take some time, but if we are a little patient, we get a first look at our prototype, how it might look for the user. That is a great start. But I think this interface is a bit boring. Why not make it a little bit more colorful and exciting? We can change the design choices based on our liking by just prompting the AI, please change the colors. And here we have it. By mixing media, we gain the best of both worlds. The human freedom to sketch without constraints, and the computational power to polish, adapt, and scale. With this approach, every sketch can be the starting point for something testable, tangible, and ready to share. Test and refine, testing our user interface. Once a prototype has been created, the real test begins, showing it to potential users and listening carefully to their reactions and answers to a survey. Instead of spending hours drafting surveys or discussion guides, we can ask AI to generate tailored questionnaires for our target users. The prompts can focus on usability, emotional response, or even willingness to pay, depending on what we need to learn. We can just insert our prompt and ask ChatGPT to generate the questionnaire. Once responses are collected, the same AI can analyze the data, highlighting recurring themes, unexpected insights, and even contradictions that might otherwise go unnoticed. Thus, we now upload our spreadsheet with our responses, which gets analyzed. That did not work. Let's try again. And we end up with a structured analysis of our feedback, including actionable recommendations. The process becomes even more valuable when working with multiple versions of a mock-up. Small variations in layout, wording, or visual style can have a surprising impact on user perception. AI helps to identify these effects systematically, comparing responses across versions and surfacing which changes truly matter. Let's see what happens when we upload the feedback from 2 versions instead of only 1. Of course, you can also add more than that, but we just want to try it out. Now ChatGPT gives us a structured analysis between the 2 versions, highlighting patterns and pain points for both of them, and again, it gives us actionable recommendations. Excellent! We've utilized AI to create, distribute, and analyze user feedback on our prototype, transforming raw opinions into a clear and actionable list of improvements. We've tested for usability and desirability. By combining human feedback with AI-driven analysis, we move faster from assumption to evidence. Each iteration brings us closer to a solution that is not only functional, but genuinely resonates with the people it is designed for. Test and refine advanced, testing with wild ideas and prevent malicious user behavior. Let's imagine you are beyond the mock-up phase and have implemented your system. Users are unpredictable. They'll try things you never imagined. They'll click buttons in a different order than expected, input strange data, and generally abuse your interface in ways that can break even the most carefully crafted design. And that's where AI becomes your secret weapon. Well, we already have had test tools for user interfaces for years, but not every developer has access to these. Therefore, let's use a regular AI to give you wild ideas of users abusing your system. Instead of guessing, you can ask an AI, "Hey, as a user, how could I intentionally misuse this login form to cause problems?" Or, "What are some unconventional ways someone might try to break this payment flow?" The AI will generate a whole spectrum of unexpected abuse scenarios, from attempting SQL injections in a search bar to bypassing a security step. With clever navigation, AI helps you anticipate the truly wild edge case interactions that often slip through traditional testing. Then you would test these scenarios and see how your system would handle them. By doing this, you can reduce the number of user complaints and system failures massively. Coming back to our example, we would say, create 20 scenarios how an end user could abuse our MVP concept development accelerator. Since our tool shall generate innovative ideas, we might want to avoid it to generate harmful ideas like hacking a financial institute. Another prompt: list all potential ways a malicious user could abuse our AI tool that generates MVP prototypes from text prompts. Focus on how they could use it to generate harmful applications or code designed for hacking, creating backdoors, or exploiting systems. This prompt is already useful, but we could make it even more powerful with the following very long prompt. I won't read it to you, but you can of course download it as all of the other prompts and test it out. Can you see how using AI as a thinking partner will avoid frustration during the testing phase, the testing process with real users? But AI can do even more for you. Enter AI agents. At the time of recording, AI agents are not yet 100% stable and fully reliable, but this might have changed when you see this video. What will AI agents allow you to do? Most likely, an AI agent can work on its own and simulate user behavior. If you combine the wild ideas of how a user could abuse your system and hand them over to an AI agent, your system can prove its robustness. You can instruct an AI agent to explore this e-commerce site and try to add an item to the cart, then attempt to apply a non-existing discount code and see what happens. The AI agent learns the interface, simulates user behavior, and actively tries to find vulnerabilities or unexpected outcomes. It's like having an army of highly creative, tireless testers at your fingertips, poking and prodding your UI in ways a human might miss. This isn't just about finding bugs, it's about uncovering design flaws, usability bottlenecks, and security gaps you hadn't even considered. If you can use AI agents in your organization depends on the policies and tools you have. I recommend to you, find out how and which AI agents you can use safely at your company and familiarize yourself with AI agents, focusing on using it to test your software prototypes. However, let's return to what we achieved without agents. By utilizing AI to simulate creative and even malicious users, we've identified critical edge cases and potential vulnerabilities that would have otherwise been overlooked. Our accelerator is not just user-tested, but battle-hardened. This completes the build. We've taken a complex idea, a tool to accelerate innovation, and used the design thinking with AI process to turn it into a robust working prototype. Recap of design thinking with AI, the MVP Concept Development Accelerator. Let's recap what an incredible journey this project has been. You didn't just complete another exercise. You built a robust, reusable tool from the ground up. You've created your own personal MVP Concept Development Accelerator that embodies the very principles of this course. Think about the skills you've just put into practice. You used AI to define a complex problem, to architect a feature set, to engineer a multi-step master prompt, and turn a simple sketch into a functional, battle-tested prototype. This is the complete end-to-end design thinking with AI workflow. You now have a repeatable process for turning any business challenge into a technology solution, supercharged by AI. Please take the master build you have built, experiment with it, refine it, and adapt it to be your future partner whenever you want to work on or develop an idea. Your AI-powered design thinking mindset in action. You've learned the process, you've completed the projects, and you've seen what's possible. Now it's time to make these skills a permanent part of your professional DNA. Over the next few lessons, we're going to consolidate everything you've learned and provide practical, actionable tips to integrate these workflows into your daily practice. First, we will master the art of AI collaboration, learning how to give feedback that gets brilliant results. Then we'll cover the crucial ethical guardrails to ensure you're innovating responsibly. We'll bridge the gap to your daily work by integrating this process directly into Agile and Scrum. And finally, I'll give you a concrete, actionable 30-day plan to turn these new skills into a powerful, lasting habit. This is where the theory becomes a career-long advantage. So, let's go. The art of AI collaboration. Giving AI good feedback. Working with AI can feel a bit like working with a new colleague. Sometimes you get something brilliant right away. Other times, the result is not quite what you had in mind. Just accepting the first output of your AI is like running a function with default settings and hoping for the best. You will get a result, but probably not the best one. When using AI as a co-creator during the design thinking process, the real art lies in mastering the feedback loop, refining your request through iterations until the output is precisely what you need. So, how do you provide feedback to your AI that gets the results you need? First, pass clear and specific parameters. Instead of a vague comment like, "This isn't creative enough," use explicit instructions. Generate 5 user personas for a fitness app. Focus on users over 50 who are new to technology. Include their motivations, goals, and frustrations. That kind of specific prompt is infinitely more useful than a generic one. Specificity removes ambiguity. Second, use diff-style feedback. Don't just point out what's wrong with the result, because you would often lose the parts that worked when the AI generates a new result. Instead, highlight what to keep and specify what to change. Think of it like a code review and prompt. The structure of this user story is good, keep that. But rewrite the acceptance criteria to be more specific and testable. Many modern generative AI tools, such as Gemini, offer features called a canvas or similar, which allow you to select specific parts of the output and provide the AI with instructions to modify only that selection. This makes targeted feedback even easier. Third, iterate. Don't expect a single-shot solution. No complex problem is solved in one go. Treat every AI output as a draft in a rapid iteration cycle. Your feedback is the logic that drives the next loop. This isn't wasted time, it's high-speed creative development. Fourth, apply constraints to define the scope. The further you are in the cycle of iterations, the better it is to give the AI some boundaries to work within, like generate 3 "how might we" statements for improving user onboarding, focusing on a non-technical user who feels overwhelmed. Each statement must be under 15 words. Constraints force precision. Finally, run what-if scenarios to explore edge cases. Use prompts to explore alternatives you might not have considered, like, what if we explained this concept to a non-technical user? Or what if we imagined this solution not as an app, but as a physical in-person service? Or change the environment. What if our company would be a school of dolphins? How would the onboarding look in that case? I know the last prompt sounds silly, but silly can spark creativity. This is how you use AI to explore the full solution space. Mastering this feedback loop is the difference between using AI as a novelty and wielding it as a professional-grade engineering tool. See every output as a conversation starter and every piece of feedback as a step towards a better build. ethical considerations and guardrails when using AI for design thinking. AI is exciting, it's fast, it's helpful, and it can feel like a productivity superpower. But there's a catch. Powerful tools come with huge responsibilities. If we ignore those, we don't only risk legal trouble, we risk our culture, our trust, and the quality of our work. Let's talk about what responsible use looks like in practice. And a quick legal disclaimer: the following information, like all information in this course, is not legal advice. It is provided for general information purposes only and does not substitute consultation with qualified legal professionals. Okay, first, data privacy and confidentiality. AI systems learn from enormous amounts of information, and it can be tempting to upload sensitive material without thinking twice. But once personal or confidential data is shared with an external system, we may lose control over how it is stored or used. Beyond this, it might be outright illegal to use the data with an AI violating laws and NDAs, which puts you and your company at a significant risk. Do you know for sure, for instance, if you have permission to upload Jira tickets to an AI and get it analyzed? Most people don't. Therefore, before sharing any data with an AI, your first question must be, is this data classified as public or private? When in doubt, sanitize your inputs and assume the endpoint is not secure. Second, bias in AI models. Since AI systems are trained on vast datasets from the internet, they are based on human-generated data, which means they also inherit all of its human biases and distortions. A model may reinforce stereotypes or exclude perspectives you consider essential. Your job is to act as a quality assurance layer. Actively question the outputs. Test for biases and seek diverse perspectives to counterbalance the model's inherent blind spots. Biases can often be seen in personas generated during the design thinking process. Third, intellectual property. Generative AI can generate content that appears original, yet its training data often comes from existing and sometimes, or often, IP-protected work. This raises questions like, who owns the results and under what conditions may we use them? Companies, regulators, and courts are still finding answers, but for professionals, the safer path is transparency and caution. Acknowledging when AI was involved and ensuring we do not claim undue ownership. You definitely want to have the IP on the amazing ideas you are implementing thanks to your excellent design thinking with AI skills. As a rule of thumb, your chances of owning IP on an AI-generated result rise the more you manually edit the outcome. Be cautious about using AI-generated assets in production without clear legal guidance. And finally, preventing skill erosion and over-reliance. We must face the truth. In coding, relying on a single library for everything is a bad practice, and so is over-relying on AI. If AI becomes the invisible problem solver for everything, people may disengage from their own judgment. Critical thinking, creativity, and accountability could erode. But used wisely, AI can spark new ideas, free time for meaningful work, and strengthen collaboration. The difference lies in how consciously we integrate it. The goal is to augment your intelligence, not outsource it. Responsible AI use is not about fear or slowing down. It is about balance. Privacy, bias, intellectual property, and human dynamics are not barriers, but reminders of the values we want to protect. Integrating design thinking with AI into Agile and Scrum. New tools are only useful if they integrate into our existing workflows without causing friction. For most of us, that workflow is agile. I could speak at length about how AI can accelerate and improve agile practices, but I will focus only on the aspect of integrating design thinking with AI into agile and Scrum practices. Do you remember the Agile Manifesto? Sentence number 3 is customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And the 12 principles of agile software start with the words, "Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer." Let's identify where design thinking and agile complement each other. And start right at the beginning, product vision and backlog discovery. This often happens before Sprint 1 or during early discovery workshops. The purpose here is clear. Define the product's goals, establish a higher-level backlog, and build a shared understanding of the problem we are trying to solve. Here, design thinking with AI is extremely valuable. First, it excels at problem framing, deeply understanding user needs, empathizing with their challenges, and uncovering real pain points. It's about moving beyond assumptions to validated insights. Thanks to design thinking with AI, you can build a solid foundation for the backlog. With detailed personas, verified customer requirements, and clear problem statements, you ensure that your backlog isn't just a wish list, but a collection of items addressing validated user needs or meaningful innovations. Think about it. Instead of assuming users want a data expert function, design thinking might reveal they actually need a report for their boss. AI tools can assist in this process by analyzing user feedback or support tickets to quickly identify these patterns. Integrating design thinking ensures your Scrum journey starts with the right problem and a truly user-centered product vision. Next, let's examine product backlog refinement. The goal here is to prepare backlog items with enough detail and clarity so that the development team can confidently pull them into a sprint. Design thinking's emphasis on rapid ideation and quick prototyping is perfect for refining user stories. You can sketch out user flows, create basic wireframes, or even use AI-powered tools to generate multiple UI variations. This allows for early validation. Instead of writing code for a feature that might work, you can test concepts with users before beginning expensive development. Imagine an AI tool that, given a user story, generates 3 different UI layouts. This would enable your team to quickly review and iterate with stakeholders, significantly accelerating the refinement process. It also helps prioritize items based on actual user feedback, not just internal opinions, before a single line of code is written. But it requires a mindset shift in your development team to only start developing when the design thinking process has validated the real needs and solutions of your users. Now, what about during the sprint itself? The primary purpose of an active sprint is to build and deliver working software, so we need to be mindful here. Design thinking can still add value, particularly for new ambiguous features. Methods like quick user testing can support mid-sprint spikes or design tasks. If a feature is proving uncertain, a small focused design thinking loop can quickly clarify user flows. However, a word of caution. Design thinking sessions during a sprint must be lightweight to avoid disrupting sprint commitments. We are talking about targeted, maybe an hour-long sessions to unblock a feature, not week-long design sprints. Let's summarize. Integrating design thinking with AI isn't about replacing Scrum, it's about enhancing it. We should definitely use it to ensure we're building the right product during product vision and discovery. We should also refine and validate our features during backlog refinement with design thinking to reduce waste. And we might use lightweight methods to clarify and validate during sprints, ensuring we stay on track. Your weekly plan for the first 30 days practicing design thinking with AI. Theory is just the starting point. Your new skill of design thinking with AI only becomes powerful with practice. Here's your simple, actionable plan to make it a core part of your professional toolkit within the next 30 days. Week number 1. Master the sandbox and embrace the awkwardness. Before you apply design thinking to a high-stakes project, get your hands dirty in a safe environment. Your first mission is to go back through the exercises in this course. Don't just reread them. Rerun the prompts. Change them, break them, see what happens when you give vague feedback versus specific instructions. This is where you will start co-designing and co-thinking with AI. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, like learning a new instrument. Your first few attempts might not produce a masterpiece. That's not just okay, that's the entire point. The goal this week isn't to get a perfect output, but to get comfortable with the creative back and forth, the very heart of the design thinking process. Week 2. Apply one full cycle to a real problem. Now it's time to leave the sandbox. Pick one thing from your real-world work. It could be an existing feature that needs improvement, a recurring bug, or even a brand new idea you haven't had time to explore. This week, your goal is to take that one problem through the entire design thinking with AI process. Empathize. Use AI to analyze user feedback, create personas, or research the problem space from the user perspective. Define. Work with AI to craft a sharp, insightful problem statement. Ideate. Generate 10 different solutions, even wild ones. Prototype. Use AI to help you sketch out the most promising idea. Test. Show that rough prototype to one colleague and get their feedback. Even if it feels forced, follow the steps. The goal isn't to ship a final product. It's to prove to yourself that you can run the entire design thinking playbook with AI. Weeks number 3 and 4, from a single cycle to continuous habits. You've completed one loop. Now it's time to make it a habit. Take the feedback from your week 2 prototype and start a second, more refined loop. Or pick a new project and run the process again. This is where you move from consciously doing design thinking to unconsciously being a design thinker. Continue to lean on AI as your co-creator. When you feel stuck, ask it for another perspective. When you have an idea, ask it to help you build on it. And most importantly, don't just share what you're doing, teach it. It's often said that the fastest way to learn something is to explain it to someone else. So, invite a teammate to co-create with you on a small problem. Show them how you use AI to generate user personas or prototype a new feature in minutes and let them try it with you. The act of teaching and collaborating will not only solidify your own understanding, but will also start to influence the way your team solves problems. And if they find the approach as powerful as you do, they might benefit from taking this course as well. You now have a powerful new mindset and a toolkit to match. This journey isn't about replacing your skills, it's about amplifying them. Start small, trust the process, even when it feels uncertain, and you will fundamentally change how you build the future. And now, go and create something amazing.